Everyone needs compassion, a love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness of a Savior, the hope of nations. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. So take me as you find me, all my fears and failures. Fill my life again. I give my life to follow everything I believe in. Now I surrender. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Reset. For those of you that are living in the Midwest, I hope that you are staying warm and dry. It has been a rough couple of weeks here in Iowa and Illinois and the surrounding states. You know, I was thinking back to some of the statements that I hear, or some of the rhymes that people, especially children, can make. And on the playground and things of that sort. And one that I know from my childhood that was a very, very common thing when kids were getting into fights and yelling and pushing and shoving. That is, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think that is probably one of the statements, at least in my personal experience, and maybe in yours too, that you can say that all you want, but words can sometimes be almost as devastating and painful as physical torment. There's a lot of statements that end up being something that we question. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think back to Jesus on the cross, and that was certainly more than words were happening when he suffered and he died for us. His body was broken as he suffered on the cross. There was also words of torment as well. But another thing that really makes me wonder, really made me look back on, is one of the things that Jesus said on the cross, and that was, "Father, forgive them because they know not what they do." They don't know what they're doing. Now, when I hear that and I think about the events that put Jesus on the cross, I thought, these people would know exactly what they're doing. They would know that they were making someone suffer. They were causing anguish to someone dying on a cross. And that's one thing that I always thought about, especially as a young Christian, was that phrase in the Bible. One that you're not really supposed to disagree with the Bible, but that is one statement that I just struggled with. Forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. And I would think to myself, well, why did Jesus really say that? Well, we can do all kinds of research and listen to commentary on that. And part of it is the fact that Jesus was that forgiving, that he was asking God, don't condemn them. This is what I am doing for them. It also says in 1 Corinthians, Paul writes that if these people knew who they were doing this to, they may not be doing it. But of course, the prophecy also had to be fulfilled that he was crushed for our transgressions. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story, as I usually do, that really I'm not very proud about. Something from my past, my late childhood. So to give you a little bit of background on how words can hurt. When I was younger, I was, I guess, in that category of being picked on. There are different levels of social status, even in children. There are the popular ones, there are the not so popular ones, but there are some that are even put into a category of being put down and cut down and teased and having trouble being given to them all the time. And I guess I was in that category. I dealt with quite a bit of verbal abuse. And for me, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me, was something that was extremely untrue in my life, in my childhood. I didn't really have a lot of physical abuse given to me, but there was a lot of teasing and taunting and things that were very, very painful for me. Now, I did have some friends, and I wasn't a complete outcast, but there was this certain group of kids that really, really picked on me. And as I think back, there was one incident, like I told you, that I'm not so proud about. And to this day, I really try to reason why I acted the way that I did on that. I believe I was probably in about third or fourth grade. There was this young lady, there was this girl in my class that was in my category, but maybe even more so. She was teased a lot. She was, didn't really have any friends. She was picked on by the other kids. And I found myself one day being a part of that. And then I thought maybe if I act towards her the way that some of these kids act towards me, it would make me more popular, or it would, relieve me from being teased and alleviate that stress. So at lunch, I made some comments to her, and I started teasing her, making sure that the other kids were watching, and it was so really out of character for me, because here I was teasing someone, knowing what kind of anguish and emotional stress that puts on you, because I received that myself. But I didn't let up. I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going. And then all of a sudden, this girl stands up, points at me, and screams at the top of her lungs, "Stop this! Leave me alone!" And not just the kids around me fell silent with wide eyes, but the entire lunchroom. It was one of the most humiliating and most embarrassing times for me in my entire life. And it stopped me dead in my tracks. And the very thing that was causing me so much anguish, I had put on this person. This was not the boy, me, Dave. This was not the boy that my parents raised me to be in a Christian home. This was not the way for me to act, and there was absolutely no excuse whatsoever. And boy, was it a wake-up call for me. And from that moment on, I made a pact to myself that I'm never going to act that way again. So later down the line, a few days later, I came up to her and I said, I want to let you know that I'm sorry, and I don't know why I acted like that, and I hope that you will forgive me. And she said to me, she says, "I forgive you, but leave me alone. Don't talk to me anymore." And here we are 50 plus years later, and from time to time I still think of that, and it makes me feel ashamed. It makes me feel terrible that I would have acted like that. So the phrase, "Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you," so far from the truth. When Jesus went to the cross, shortly before that, he rode into Jerusalem almost at being perceived as a king, as royalty. And the very people that were shouting acclamations to him and laying palms down were the ones that were standing at the cross, humiliating him with their words, humiliating him with their taunts and their teases. And even though Jesus was going through so much pain and anguish physically, that had to be a slap in the face as well, a symbolic slap in the face. So we as Christians, we need to take note. We need to think about the things that we say in our families and in our workplaces and in our churches. And we need to understand that the word, the tongue, can be such a two-edged sword. So my challenge to you this week is to take on the humbleness, to take on the attitude of Christ. So many times Jesus would come to the aid of the afflicted. He even said in the Beatitudes that, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who are persecuted, blessed those who are poor. For all these people shall be uplifted. That was his intention, to rise the meek to a level of acceptance and respect. So as we think about that phrase, sticks and stones, they can certainly break your bones. But words can be just as hurtful. So my challenge, once again, to you this week is to take the words that we might say, manifest them in our heart and our minds, and turn them into words that we should say. Think on those things. Pray on those things. Let's lift each other up. This world needs it more now than it ever has. Not just from the physical war that we're seeing, but the things that we can persecute with our tongue, the things that we can say with our voice. Let's turn those potential things that cause harm into things that cause good. Have a great week. Thank you for being a part of Reset, and stay warm, stay safe.